Welcome to this brief introductory video of my teaching philosophy that I believe will help you in terms of your approach to this class. I tell my students regularly that the thing that always concerned me most when I was on your side of the desk, and that's been a long, long time ago, was trying to figure out the person on the other side of the desk and what she or he expected. You know how we are as college professors. We all have our little systems. We all have our little ups and downs and ins and outs and things that we like and don't like. And that was really more of the concern for me, more so than content, except maybe for trigonometry and calculus. Those both kicked my butt. But aside from that, I figured I could pretty well figure out most of the content. It was just figuring out the person as the professor that usually I found to be the key to being successful. So I try to give you a very good overview of exactly what you can expect from me in this particular course and frame it in such a way that it's helpful to you not only in this course, I think, but also outside of it. So hopefully you'll gain much from it, not just in terms of Management 340, but also for your life and for your college career. If we talk strictly about management this semester, it's going to be very, very boring. So we're going to frame this not only in terms of management and organizational behavior, but we're also going to help frame this up in terms of what this PowerPoint shows you, and that is about how you can be successful. So let's take a look at this. Many of you may be college football fans and have heard of a coach named Nick Saban at the University of Alabama. When I tell you that he's been fairly successful, the people who know about him will kind of laugh a little bit because that's a gross understatement. Coach Saban is arguably the best college football coach ever to walk a sideline, and he has 6 national titles at 2 different schools and 12 SEC championships at 2 different schools to his credit, among many other awards. Currently, his salary is over the $8 million a year mark, and that's just in terms of what the university pays him, not some other things that he has going on. Again, widely recognized as the gold standard in his profession, at least for the time being. And this particular question at the top of the slide is one that he asks his players on a regular basis, and he's not afraid to challenge them, as any good teacher or coach or instructor is. And this is exactly what I'm going to issue to you in terms of a challenge to you, and really only you can figure it out, and that is to answer the question, how good do you want to be? Let's look at some things that will help you unlock that and figure that out. First and foremost, realize and understand one thing clearly. You are living your knowledge. If you want to have more and be more, you must become more, and as a result of that, you must know more. Said very simply, you got to know better, to do better, to have better. Because all of us are what we are and who we are because of the knowledge base that we've got. So again, if we want to have something improved in our life, we have to improve our knowledge. Bottom line. That's why you're enrolled in college. That's why you're enrolled in this course. That's why you'll be doing the assignments for this course and for others, is to gain knowledge that you can turn into a tool and use it to build a better life for yourself. That's the whole basic premise and philosophy of doing the whole college gig. Second, you have to realize that you cannot change who you are until you change what you do, and you can't change what you do until you change what you know. Again, if we want to have more and better, we have to be able to do more and better. In order to do more and better, we have to know more and better. And then finally, another question worth asking, and those of you who are in finance and accounting probably have a little bit of an edge perhaps on this in terms of being able to understand exactly what we mean when we ask, are you a commodity or an asset? Now, a commodity, ladies and gentlemen, is really something that is commonplace and found everywhere and is basically the same everywhere. Gold is valuable, but it's the same in Shreveport, Louisiana, Seattle, Washington, Chicago, Illinois, Bangor, Maine, Madrid, Spain, Moscow, Russia, Hiroshima, Japan, all over the world, gold is gold is gold. It doesn't change just because it's in one place or another. It is commonly and regularly found in those different spots. Then, an asset. What's the difference between a commodity and an asset? Now, an asset is something that will improve or grow over time in value. And I think it becomes clear now that we know what the two things are, which one you really want to become. And that is how you become an asset, by gaining more knowledge so that you can do better. Now, secondarily, let's look at this particular slide about your associates. This is a very, very, very important thing, because if you show me your friends, I will show you your future. Now, it might seem a little odd to have a professor challenge you on who you're hanging out with, but stay with me because I'm going somewhere with this. You become the average of the sum of the 5 people that you're around most. Now, this is not just me or something that I found on the internet that somebody said that sounded cool. This actually came from some scientific studies about associations and relationships. And the study revealed some very startling similarities and overlap in people's lives based on their closeness of association and relationship, even if they lived in other states from each other, hundreds of miles apart in some cases. They found that so many variables in their lives were the same. Now, they weren't physically contacting these people necessarily on a day-to-day basis, but even things like body weight, they were all within just a few pounds of each other. That shows you the power of association. So the bottom line is, if you want to be a success, you're going to have to hang around successful people who can help you get where you want to go. And then if you're the smartest person in your group, it's time to find a new group. Understand and appreciate the fact that people generally come in and out of your lives for a season. And not all of them are meant to be there permanently, and you may miss some of them from time to time. But at a certain point in time, particularly in terms of you growing and improving, you may very well have to leave the group you're in to find a new and better group to help you grow more so that you can do more, so that you can become more. And the people we hang out with, that makes a difference. Also, what do you wish for? A lot of people wish that life were easier, but the bottom line is very few of us can change anything in our lives to make it any easier. We generally have to play the hand that we're dealt. Now, we try in some cases to mitigate some circumstances and risks, but all of us can only do so much and have so much power with regard to that. So what must we do? We don't get the choice sometimes for it to be easier, but we do have the choice of getting better. No matter how tough our circumstances are, the human spirit and the human body are pretty resilient, and they can overcome a lot of things, sometimes more than we think they can. Don't wish for less problems, wish for more skills. Now let's talk about this thing called problems just for a minute, and we're going to refer to this often this semester. The only reason, ladies and gentlemen, that you're ever going to have a job is because somebody has a problem. Now think about that. Now, we generally try to work from the assumption that if we mowed down and eliminated all the problems in our lives, things would be okay. But again, that's probably not a luxury that most of us are going to have. We are probably going to have to tackle one problem after another, after another, after another in our lives, some of them in larger and greater scope than others, and larger and greater or smaller compared to other people's problems, but all of us are going to have them, and the bottom line is that's why we have jobs. Dentists have jobs because people have teeth problems. Doctors have jobs because people have health problems. Garbage men have jobs because people have trash problems. You can go down the list and make a pretty good assumption that everybody's job is related in some way or another to solving a problem. The quicker we understand that, the quicker we get used to that, the better off we'll all be. Don't wish for less challenge, wish for more wisdom. Because again, the only way you can grow and have more is to solve bigger and better problems. Your ability to solve a problem will determine your value to another, and basically how much you're going to get paid every month. Now, in your book are in your syllabus rather, are some book recommendations aside from the textbook that we have. And I would highly recommend that you find yourself, don't spend a heck of a lot of money, find yourself a good used copy of some of these things and put them by your bed, on the back of your toilet, whatever. And this particular book is really good. Grab that, put that on the back of that toilet, and in 17 trips to the bathroom, you'll be a heck of a lot smarter, I promise you. This book, called The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson, has 17 very short chapters in it. And it talks about finding a way to be disciplined. Now, most of us, if you're like me, associate that word discipline with punishment. And now, punishment is only one way of bringing about discipline. It is not the only way. Discipline really means to focus intently upon. Now, again, it can come about as a result of punishment. Hopefully, it doesn't get to that. But discipline really has nothing to do and is really not rooted in punishment, nor punishment rooted in it. What does discipline, again, really mean? It means simply to focus intently on something. Now you can see this graphic here that really kind of illustrates what the book is all about. Jeff Olson says that in life, most of the things that come our way, that determine our success or lack thereof, are really, really small things. Very few people quantum leap their way to success. You read and hear about so many athletes and celebrities who are quote unquote overnight successes and have money by the ton dumped in their laps. Lottery winners are in the same boat. And then in just a few short years, it's all gone. They're all broke, and in some cases worse off than they were before. They had all that money dumped into their lives and laps and had to manage it. Why? Because you can't manage $1,000 well until you can manage $100 well. You can't manage $10,000 well until you can manage $1,000 well. You can't manage $1 million well until you can manage 100,000 well. And so if you've never had that to do and then suddenly you have it, it obviously is going to be a recipe for disaster for most people because they are not disciplined. They don't know what nor how to focus on those things. So beware of the myth and the trap of the overnight success. Now, back to what Olson says here. He says that life is about short, small successes in your philosophy, attitudes, actions, and results in the categories of things like finances, health, business, personal development, and relationships. And you do it, he said, a little bit at a time on a daily basis. And these small things that are done on a day-to-day basis will accumulate in one direction or another. If they are done, these simple disciplines that you do consistently over time will gradually realize increasing levels of success. If you choose not to do them, then they will accrue to your disfavor and lead to failure. And he says these things are either easy to do or easy not to do. Now, they're not always comfortable early on, but the habit that you generate will make them become comfortable later on. It's easy to set them aside and just say, oh, well, I don't feel like doing this. I don't want to do this. And then if you do that enough, that becomes the habit. And then there becomes a big void. And the next thing you know, that void accumulates again in your disfavor. So really good advice here in this book from Jeff Olson about really how to become disciplined. We use that word, we see that word a lot, but do we really know what it means? Well, Olson will really help you out with that, and I would highly encourage you to do that. Here's a little blurb to think about. Are you, in relation to this, are you fixing your roof when it's not raining? Hey, when the storm clouds come and they start dumping rain on your roof and it's leaking, it's going to be mighty hard at that point to plug the leak. You generally have to go out there when the sun's shining and the problem isn't acute and get it fixed then. And remember, and this is a basic philosophy that I take, an approach that I take in this course, anything permitted increases. Little stuff over time will accumulate to either your favor or disfavor. If you continue to turn in things on time, then you will receive full credit, for instance. If you continue to turn things in late, especially without a good reason or explanation, for instance, then that is going to accrue against you. So these little things are what I'm trying to help you with in terms of not just Management 340, but life in general by helping you become disciplined. Now, again, I have to preach this sermon to myself a lot. It's not easy or fun to buckle down and do the things that need to be done on a day-to-day basis. But next thing you know, if I don't do them, just like you, things wind up in a disaster zone, and I have nobody to blame but me because it's the little things that I didn't do that accumulated against me over time, or I have only me to congratulate because I was able to take enough responsibility to get them done and help myself out. Got to be your own best friend sometimes. Now, speaking of, one really good way to be your own best friend is to receive instruction well. When we talk about Coach Saban, he is not the warmest and fuzziest person by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, he's a little bit prickly and could be construed as somebody who's hard to get along with. Why? Because he has that attention to detail and that focus and that discipline and demands it, like we talked about on the previous slide. And as a result of that, sometimes he sees 100 things that players do, and if they do 99 of them right and one wrong, guess where he's going? He's going to focus on the one thing that they did wrong. Why? Because in a very tight game against LSU or Auburn or another Florida or another great school in the SEC or outside the SEC, it could come down to winning and losing a game based on that 100th thing out of 100 and that one thing out of 100 that the player did wrong. So, how well do you receive instruction or coaching? What is this? Instruction is an invitation to a relationship, to performance, and to significance. When a coach, those of you who've played sports know this, when a coach gets on you, it's not a pleasant experience, but they're getting on you for a reason. They want you to do and become more and better. And sometimes they're going to make a blunt point out of that so that you don't forget and so that you can become focused and therefore disciplined to do it right and do it well. Your willingness to follow instruction decides your worth. If you can't follow instructions, you're not going to be valuable enough to give nor to allow to retain any sort of job. Bottom line, your boss is going to be depending on you to get X kind and X amount of work done on a daily basis, and you've got to be able to do that. Because that's what really a job is all about. You've got to be able to follow instructions. Now remember that destruction happens because of ignored instruction. Those of you who are familiar with the Missouri State campus, you know this. If you just stand out on Grand Avenue or Kimbrough long enough, you're going to see some fool run a red light or a stop sign and plow somebody. Why? Because they ignored the red light, they ignored the stop sign, and it created destruction. Planes crash, bridges collapse, people get sick, all these kinds of things because of ignored instruction. So, question, how well do you receive coaching or instruction? Next, what are you feeding your mind? Now, you've been made health conscious, I'm sure, all of your life in terms of body and how you can't eat too much junk food, although I love it, compared to healthy food, and expect to maintain a reasonable level of health. You're going to find this out more and more the older you get. Unfortunately, I've reached that age to where I'm acutely aware of it. And when I start to feel bad and start to drag around and not have good days in terms of how I feel and my health, I look back at my diet and realize, garbage in, garbage out, much like the old computer programming language. So, the question is, what are you feeding your mind? And we all like a slice of pie or cake or some Andy's frozen custard once in a while or a slush from Sonic. I know I do. And those are nice to have. And, life is great when you can treat yourself like that. But if that is your subsistence bodily, you're not going to live a very long or healthy life, more than likely. And it's the same thing for your mind. The analogy holds true. If you find yourself lacking in skills, lacking in critical thinking ability, lacking in the ability to distinguish yourself from other people so that you can get and retain a job, it's probably based on what you've been feeding your mind. Again, like Jeff Olson said, it's easy not to do it. It's easy to do it. But it's not going to be easy at first because it takes discipline and focus. And if you read just a little bit every day, it's amazing how quickly you can become one of the world's foremost experts on any topic if you will just simply read for 15 to 30 minutes a day, every day for a period of a few months or a year. You will be among the top percentage of people in the world on any topic if you will do that. Now, notice what Tony Robbins says here, and I'm not a huge Tony Robbins fan, but this is a jewel for certain from him. We are drowning in information, yet we are starving for wisdom. Google has made things easy. You never have to wander around wondering what if, or who does, or how about. All you got to do is pretty much Google it, and somebody has taken the time out of their busy day to put it online, more than likely. Now, speaking of discipline and Jeff Olson, remember this too. Every day stand guard at the door of your mind. You are receiving so many stimuli because of the increase in our exposure, especially to digital media. We get stimuli from everywhere, thousands of times more than our predecessors just a few decades ago. And as a result of this, your mind can get fatigued, bombarded, and exhausted, and essentially full of junk food, mental junk food. It can find its way into your mind in increasing amounts if you allow it. Now, for me, for instance, I don't really watch a lot of news. It's really the bad news. There's seldom anything good on the news anymore. And it doesn't really matter what your persuasion is about certain social issues. Nobody's happy about anything, and they never report anything that's really all that good. Now, I don't live like an ostrich with my head in the sand by any means, but I don't expose myself to that on a very regular basis because, in that case, my mind will become depressed, defeated, and even destructive in a certain way. And I can't be successful if I'm in that mode. So what do? I try to filter out a lot of that, keep up with what's important, and beyond the basic essentials, I try to find good things to listen to and read that help me to reinforce the things that I know work and to give me the additional things that I don't know so that I can be successful. Because what you don't know can hurt you. And I know you've all probably seen The Water Boy with Bobby Boucher, and Coach Klein says that what mama don't know can't hurt her. That's true maybe in the movies, but that's not true at all in real life. Now, question for you. If I were to offer you $1 million worth of anything for a $1,000 price tag, would you take it? I think everybody would say yes. Well, you'd say, well, first, what about $1 million of what? Baseballs, fishing gear, tires, lawnmowers, bolts of cloth, screws, nuts, bolts, packs of paper, pens. It can be anything. $1 million worth of anything for $1,000, I think we can all agree. That's a pretty good deal. Well, that analogy is exactly what reading is for you. You mean I can pay $20, $30, or sometimes, unfortunately for you guys, $50, $60, $100 for a textbook and learn what all these people took decades, sometimes centuries to figure out? Hey, that's a bargain. That's $1 million worth of stuff for a $1,000 price tag. You can pick up a book by any of the experts listed in the syllabus, and those are usually pretty cheap, and you can get a used copy a lot of times for less than $15 very easily, sometimes even cheaper, much cheaper. Read what they have to say, and you won't always agree with or like everything that you read, but you can figure out what somebody knows in just a matter of a few hours that took them a lifetime to learn. What a bargain if you just read. Okay, but the temptation is just to consume all that digital media in terms of social media and video games, and I like to do that too, but there comes a point in time where we're putting too much junk food in our mind, and then we're not getting the ROI out of it that we should, especially if you're having to pay a tuition bill. You know what I'm talking about. Now, back to our discussion of what discipline really is and building on that. Are you developing a focus? And there's a Japanese word, shoshin, which means the learner's mind. Here's a newsflash for you. You are not going to learn everything that you'll need for the rest of your life while you're in college. In fact, Really what a college degree is just an on-ramp to a current state of knowledge in a particular field. There's no guarantee for the future. In fact, really, true, once you get that diploma, the learning has just begun. You're going to have to continue that for forever. It's not going to change, and it's going to get more and more difficult and challenging as you get older. Some of the older students, I can hear you in the background saying, amen, that is exactly true. I know it's true for me. It's harder now to learn than when I was at the traditional college age. But the bottom line is I have to. I don't have a choice. Learning how to put this online course together has been a challenge for me. But it's something I've realized I've had to do. Didn't have a choice about it. I had to be humble enough to learn and to develop a learner's mind and to be focused on it because I wanted to do a good job with it. Now, the good news for you is that you don't have to be sick to get better. You may be very good at what you do. You may be very good at your major. But here's the bottom line. Probably you can get better. There's still some room for improvement. Now, a lot of folks have to go back and just start with some basic goal writing. And we may talk a little bit about this in depth later on. But I think this is worth mentioning. Do you have some goals? And write them down. I have learned to do that because having them upstairs is not good enough. That's called a dream. That's not a goal. Put them down on paper in some tangible format and make sure you have them and keep them with you and you measure your days by how close you're getting to them. That will help you be a heck of a lot more successful if you'll do that. Also, none of us can get to where we really want to be by ourselves. It's just that simple. We'll learn more about that in terms of talking about management and organizations and why we have them. So the bottom line for you on this is you need a mentor. You need several mentors. I learned what I know from a lot of different people in a lot of different places across a lot of different years. Now again, some of them I learned a little from, some I learned a lot from. Some were in my life for a very short period of time for whatever reason. Some are still there and have been for decades. The person I consider my chief mentor, a college professor who's now retired. When I saw him my second senior year, aka fifth year of undergrad, when he walked in the classroom, I said, that is what I want to be. And it took me that long, my fifth year of college, to figure out, okay, this is what I think I really want to be when I grow up. And so, fortunately, I was able to do that. He was able to help me and get me to where I needed to be. And we touch base with each other usually several times a day to this day. We talk much more now than when he was really actively mentoring me. He's really kind of moved into being a friend more so than a mentor, but there are times where he still will mentor me and has for a long, long time. There are some it's just been a plane ride or a car ride conversation with, and some in between. But the bottom line is multiple people have contributed to whatever success I've been able to achieve, and the same thing will go for you. Now, next question. And this is an important one, and you've got to be able to articulate this very, very well, or you will not be able to get a decent job. How do you add value? Think about this. If somebody pays you $50,000 a year, until you generate $50,000 worth of value for them, you haven't earned your paycheck. Now, some studies and some experts say it takes several years of employment, continuous employment in that one position for somebody to really be able to generate their salary and value. I'm not here to debate or dialogue about that, but the bottom line is if you're getting paid $50,000, your employer is expecting at least $50,001 worth of value out of you. So, when you get that job interview, when you write that cover letter, even before then, you're going to have to spell it out in no uncertain terms. Here is how and why I can become a valuable asset for you in this organization. And there are 3 basic questions that you can answer. Now, you don't have to, if you don't know the answer to this today, it's okay. But I challenge you over the course of this semester, work to get some solid, tangible answers to these 3 questions. Who are you? What can you do? And why do you matter? Who are you? Well, I'm a man at a certain age, and I go to Missouri State, and I'm a Cardinals fan. No, I'm not talking about that stuff. I'm talking about this. When people ask me who I am, I tell them I'm a scholar, I'm a sharer, and I'm a sculptor. Those are the three things that I do. And I do them, of course, tangentially with each other. But that is the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. Not, oh, well, I'm the only son of Mr. and Mrs. Goss and da-da-da. No, that's not who I am. Okay? What can you do? What are the hard skills and soft skills? And if you don't know what those are, the difference, you need to look that up. You need to be able to start writing those down. I can do X, Y, and Z hard skills. I can do X, Y, and Z soft skills. And then, why do you matter? Have you ever thought about that? And again, you're 20-something years old, many of you. Some of you are not. And it's high time you were able to answer that question. Why do you matter? How can you take who you are and what you can do to make a difference for that organization? If you can spell that out in no uncertain terms and look somebody in the eye and tell them that with a confident look on your face, you may not get the job, but you're going to get a long, hard sniff for it, I promise you. Now, those are the ends of my remarks here for the time being. Thank you for being patient and listening. Hopefully you will watch this on more than one occasion and refer back to it often. And certainly if you have other questions or if I can help you, as always, feel free to contact me.